Hello, everybody, and welcome back to the Kevin Blakicki YouTube channel. We have another recap for the Gamecock women's basketball team as they are elite. They are headed to the Elite Eight after beating Oklahoma, the 4 seed, by a score of 94-68. Oklahoma got them in the regular season. Actually, that was South Carolina's only regular season loss in the SEC. They have 3 losses, all of them to SEC teams, but the first one was in the Players Era tournament against Texas. That was a championship game that didn't count as an SEC conference game. They obviously lost in overtime to Oklahoma. And then in the SEC tournament championship game, they got blown out by Texas. 3 losses on the season, 3 SEC losses, but only one of them counts in the regular season. So that's why South Carolina was able to get the 1 seed in the SEC tournament. But coming into this game, I wasn't scared of Oklahoma, but I did respect them, and I did think it was going to be a close game. Oklahoma is a really good team, and they're very feisty. And Aaliyah Chavez is a great scorer. She's just a freshman. She's going to have a fantastic career at Oklahoma or wherever she goes if she decides to transfer. Reagan Beers, this ended up being her last game. She had a fantastic career. So I knew that any team that beat South Carolina in this season obviously could do it again. However, this is a team led by Dawn Staley and Raven Johnson. And one thing about them is that they love to win. They love winning more than anything. And Raven Johnson has done nothing but win in her basketball career. So she takes losses very personally. And they mentioned it in the post game that they said that their motivation wasn't to get revenge against Oklahoma. It was to advance in the tournament and get one step closer to a national championship game. And I just have to disagree with that. I think that they're just playing it down. But deep down, I know that they wanted this game. I know anytime that you play an SEC tournament team in the tournament, there's a little bit more to it because it's a conference rivalry, and I know that when you beat Dawn Staley, she takes it personally. I don't know her personally, but I do have a feeling that South Carolina and Dawn Staley obviously want to go back to the national championship game, and they want to play UConn, and they want to get their get back. They want to beat UConn. They want to beat the best because they were embarrassed on the national stage last year, and they don't want that again. And I think that was the same case here. Oklahoma was the only blemish in the regular season for South Carolina in SEC regular season play. And so they think about it. They don't think about the 15 wins. They think about the 1 loss. And Raven Johnson is now 14-2 in the NCAA tournament, and she's probably thought about those 2 losses more than the 14 wins. And that's what propels this team. That's what makes them great. And I have to come to you today, and I have to apologize to my viewers because I was wrong. I thought that if Joyce Edwards was shut down by the opposing team, whoever they played, that they would probably end up winning that game. And not only was that not the case, Joyce Edwards was a non-factor in this game, and it didn't matter at all. South Carolina wasn't really able to have a lot of success in the paint. In fact, Oklahoma was actually able to outscore them. But South Carolina said, okay, if you aren't going to give us the paint, we're going to take our business to the 3-point line, where they shot 71% from 3-point range. 71%. That is absolutely fantastic. That is unheard of. They were unconscious from 3. Tanaya Ladson went 4 for 4 from 3-point range. Medina Okot had another 3-pointer. Raven Johnson was great. Tessa Johnson was able to hit some big-time 3-pointers. And that's how they were able to do it. Joyce Edwards ended up having 8 points on the game, but the majority of her points were outside of the paint. They were jump shots. They weren't letting either her or Medina Okot into that paint. You do have to give a huge credit to Oklahoma's defense inside, because they were not gonna let Joyce Edwards and Medina Okot bully them. Anytime that they got the ball, there was at least 2 or 3 women on either Joyce or Medina at all times. And this was a game where you had to have your other players step up. Raven Johnson had 18 points, the most points that she's ever scored in an NCAA tournament game. Again, this is the best season of her career, and it's been so amazing to see her elevate her game this season and evolve as a scorer. She's been fantastic. The Westlake girls, Raven Johnson and Tanaya Latson, high school teammates, now they're playing in March Madness. They're in the Sweet 16. Now they're in the Elite Eight. And Tanaya Latson had her signature game as a Gamecock. She had 32 points in December in a game against NC Central. But this was her magnum opus, 28 points. 18 of them were in the first half. She was phenomenal in this game. As I mentioned, she was 4 for 4 from 3-point range. Tanaya Ladson was absolutely fantastic, and she stepped up when Medina Okot and Joyce Edwards weren't getting the job done offensively, thanks to the Oklahoma defense. And this is a game that really opened my eyes to South Carolina. We know that they're one of the best teams in the country. We know that they are going to be favored, whoever they play, either Virginia or TCU. They're going to be favored in that game. They're going to be favored to go to the Final Four. We know how good this team is, but I feel like they reached another level in this game. Throughout the course of this season, we've seen Joyce Edwards and Medina Okot not be factors, and South Carolina struggling as a result of that. Now in this game, Raven Johnson and Tanaya Ladson were absolutely fantastic. And at halftime, they were the only 2 players on the team that had double-digit points. They were carrying this team offensively. And even still, even as good of a game as Tanaya Ladson had, she didn't score in the third quarter. So there were other players on the team that were stepping up even when she wasn't scoring. And Joyce Edwards didn't have a bad game. She just was surrounded every time that she got the basketball. So you have to give a huge shout out to Oklahoma. And what makes this win even more special is LSU losing against Duke last night in absolutely heartbreaking fashion on their side. I wasn't heartbroken. You had Ashlyn Jackson scoring the game-winning three-pointer. It went around the rim a couple times, left everybody wondering, I mean, if she made it, they obviously won. If she missed the shot, they would have lost, and their season would have been over. But only a Sweet 16 appearance for the LSU Tigers, obviously a letdown for them. Plus, Malaysia Fulwiley. Everyone who's been watching my videos throughout the course of this year knows my feelings on Malaysia Fulwiley. I loved her at South Carolina. She transferred to LSU, one of the 2 teams that I didn't want her to transfer to. And so she's been my op. She's been my enemy. I've been hate watching LSU all season. They've been putting up staggering point totals against lesser opponents. And then when they get to good teams, they kind of lay flat. And this was a team that they definitely should have beaten. But, Duke is a really good team. And now they're going to the Elite Eight, and they're 1 win away from the Final Four. So congratulations to them. I didn't want to make this about LSU, but you know what? I mean, as a South Carolina fan, I also just hate LSU for a number of reasons. All across different sports, I have hatred for their university. So the fact that South Carolina was able to advance farther in the tournament definitely makes my day a lot better. So now in this game, South Carolina will be headed to the Elite Eight. They will be facing off against either Virginia, the 10 seed, or TCU, the 3 seed, led by Olivia Miles, who transferred over from Notre Dame. Kind of a questionable decision to go to TCU, but you know what? For her, it's working out pretty well because she's one win away from going to the Final Four. And so is her former teammate and the Notre Dame Fighting Irish, Hannah Hidalgo, and Notre Dame are also a win away. They got to play UConn. That should be a good game. I want to see Hannah Hidalgo play against that UConn defense and see how well she matches up. That's going to be absolute cinema, or it could be an absolute blowout. UConn had some struggles in their game against UNC. They only had 28 points in the first half. You sign up for that any day of the week. And that's part of the reason why I feel so much better about South Carolina and their championship hopes, because they played a great game against Oklahoma, a great team that beat them earlier in the season. And UNC was in a game for two quarters against UConn. UConn was being locked up by the Tar Heels, and South Carolina, no disrespect to North Carolina, is far superior at women's basketball than them. So a lot of those open opportunities that they missed in that game against UConn, I mean, we're playing hypotheticals, but I think they probably fall if they're South Carolina. So I'm feeling a lot more positive about South Carolina's title hopes. Obviously, they'll probably have to end up going up against Texas at some point. That's going up against Texas is going to be a challenge. We obviously know that they've had the number against the Gamecocks this year, winning 2 out of 3. Obviously, Lauren Betts and UCLA are going to be a problem. From here on out, it's not going to get any easier, although I will say it does kind of seem like South Carolina has punched their ticket to the Final Four. I don't want to put the cart before the horse, and no disrespect to Olivia Miles and the TCU Horned Frogs or the 10 seed Virginia Cavaliers, who went into Iowa and knocked off the 2 seed Hawkeyes in double overtime. An absolutely fantastic basketball game. But it does seem like Oklahoma was the big test in this region for South Carolina before going to the Final Four. So we'll see. We'll see if South Carolina is able to punch yet another ticket to the Final Four. If you like this content, make sure you like this video. Make sure you subscribe to the channel. Make sure you drop a comment and tell me how much you like this video. If you want to follow me on social media, follow me on Twitter, TikTok, and Instagram at Kevin Blakicki. And we'll see you again next time.